The best gift is the day when you're gone. My daughter said, My daughter looked across the table at me and said, the best gift would be for you to disappear. So that's what I did. I paid off their mortgage, took everything they considered theirs, and flew to Hawaii. But what I left on her desk that night destroyed them forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. I reached into my jacket pocket, feeling the edge of the envelope, still believing that night would end with gratitude. The dining room felt warm. Too warm, maybe. The fireplace crackled behind me, casting orange light across the table where my family sat finishing their Thanksgiving dinner. Through the window, snow fell over Oak Park in slow, heavy flakes. Inside, the chandelier glowed softly, making everything look like a holiday card. Maria's photo watched from the mantel, her smile frozen in better times. I pushed back from the table, slower than I remembered needing to. 65 felt heavier these days. Fern, honey, I said, my voice more hopeful than I intended. I got something for you. Happy Thanksgiving. The envelope passed from my scarred fingers to her smooth ones. She took it without even looking up from her phone, tearing it open with her thumb. Sophie kept picking at her pumpkin pie. Vernon sawed through another slice of turkey. Alex's screen glowed blue against his teenage face, lighting up nothing. $5,000. The check was generous, I thought, enough to clear most of Fern's credit card debt. She called me just last month, panicked at 2 in the morning about that. Her eyes scanned the numbers. Not a smile, not even surprise, just nothing. 5,000, she said flatly, as if I'd handed her a grocery receipt. That's it. My chest tightened. Well, I figured it'd help with that credit card situation. She finally looked up, and her eyes were cold. Colder than the snow outside. Colder than anything I'd seen in 42 years of being her father. You know what, Dad? The best gift would be when you're no longer around. Time stopped. The fire's crackling faded to a dull roar in my ears. Vernon's knife froze mid-cut. Sophie's fork hung in the air. Alex's thumbs paused over his phone. But Fern didn't flinch. Her face stayed perfectly still, like she'd just commented on the weather. I tried to speak, but no sound came. My hands started trembling, so I gripped the back of my chair. The leather felt cold, distant, like everything else suddenly did. Had I heard her right? What? The word barely left my lips. You heard me. She set the check down on the table. Not her purse. Not in her pocket. Just down like it was trash. You're always here, she said. Always hovering. Always controlling everything with your money. We can't breathe with you around. The fire popped. A log shifted, sending sparks up the chimney. Fern, maybe. Vernon started, but she cut him off instantly. Shut up, Vernon. She didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on me. Dad needs to hear this. He needs to understand that we have our own lives, our own plans, and you're always in the way. Grandpa. Sophie's small voice barely broke through. 15 years of mortgage payments. 15 years of showing up when they called, fixing what broke, paying what they couldn't. The numbers started running through my head, even as my daughter explained why the world would be better without me in it. I just wanted to help, I said quietly. The words sounded weak, even to me. Help. Fern laughed, sharp, humorless. You wanted to keep us dependent, to make sure we'd always need you, always come crawling back for money. Well, congratulations, Dad, it worked. We're stuck. Vernon kept cutting his turkey, eyes fixed on his plate. Sophie's face crumpled, but she stayed silent. Alex scrolled like nothing had happened. The check sat between the dishes, $5,000 nobody wanted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked around the table, at Vernon's silence, Sophie's worry, Alex's indifference, and Fern's icy certainty. They'd all thought it. Maybe not all of them, but enough. Long enough for Fern to say it out loud. On Thanksgiving, with the turkey still warm, and my dead wife's photo smiling down from across the room. What did you just say? My voice sounded distant, like it came from someone else. About you being gone? Fern crossed her arms. I said what I said, and you know I'm right. When you're gone, we'll finally be free. The house will be ours. The money will be ours. Our lives will be ours. The fire crackled. Snow pressed harder against the windows. The chandelier's light, once soft, now felt harsh, exposing every crack in the illusion I'd built about my family. I pushed back from the table slowly, feeling every one of my 65 years in my knees, my back, my chest, where something tight and painful had taken root. "I think I need some air," I said. The words came out steady, which surprised me. Everything else, my hands, my vision, my understanding of who my daughter really was shaking. But my voice held. I turned toward the kitchen, away from Fern's cold eyes, away from Vernon's silence, away from that check. 15 years of my life, now worthless. The kitchen door was only 10 feet away, but it felt like miles. Behind me, Fern said something else, but the words blurred into the crackling fire and the pounding of my heart. I walked through the door, leaving them at the table with their turkey and their truth. The door swung shut behind me, muffling the noise. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, harsh and clinical after the chandelier's glow. I gripped the counter with both hands. The laminate bit into my palms. Outside the window, snow kept falling, piling up on the back fence, each flake adding to the weight. My reflection stared back at me from the dark glass, an old man with gray hair and confused eyes. I turned on the cold water, splashed my face. The shock helped. Not much, but enough to bring me back from wherever I was drifting. She'd said it. My daughter had actually said the world would be better without me. I splashed my face again, watching the drops fall into the sink full of dirty dishes and spatulas. The smell of turkey mixed with dish soap, sweet and chemical. I dried my face slowly, mechanically. Then the door slammed open. "Don't you walk away from me." Fern's voice ricocheted off the tile walls. She crossed the small kitchen in 3 strides, grabbed a sponge, and started attacking the dishes, scrubbing hard, slamming plates, splashing water everywhere. The sound was sharp and violent. I turned toward her, my voice low. "I needed a moment, Fern. What you said, that was hurtful." "Hurtful?" She let out a humorless laugh, scrubbing the counter harder. "You want to talk about hurt? Try living under your shadow for 40 years. Try having a father who treats every dollar spent like a chain around your neck." "That's not." I started, but she cut me off. "I've spent my entire adult life hearing about your sacrifices," she snapped. "The house, the bills, the kids' school supplies, the car repairs, everything you've done for us. Over and over, like we asked for it." "You did ask," I said quietly, my voice steady. "Every time you called at 2 in the morning because the furnace broke. Every time Vernon lost another job and you needed help with rent. Every time." Her eyes flashed. "We needed help because you made sure we'd need help." The sponge hit the sink with a wet slap. She turned to face me, water dripping from her hands. "You bought the house in your name," she said bitterly. "You pay the mortgage so you can hold it over us. You set it up perfectly, didn't you? Keep us dependent. Keep us grateful. Keep us trapped." The refrigerator hummed in the silence that followed. Outside, a car passed, headlights sweeping across the snowy yard. "I bought the house because you couldn't afford one," I said. "You and Vernon were 3 months behind on rent. You had a 6-month-old baby. What was I supposed to do? Let us figure out ourselves." Her voice rose. "Maybe we would have been fine. Maybe we didn't need you swooping in to save us. But you couldn't stand that, could you? You needed to be the hero. You needed us to owe you." She moved closer, and for the first time, I saw something new in her face. Not anger, not frustration. Something colder, something that had been festering for years while I was too busy paying bills to notice. Her finger jabbed into my chest. Once, twice, each word sharp as a knife. "You wanted us dependent." I stepped back against the counter. "Fern, that's not true. I just wanted to help my daughter raise my grandchildren in a safe place. Where you wanted to make sure we could never leave," she shot back. "Make sure we'd always be right here, under your thumb, needing you. Because what would you be without us needing you, Dad? Just a lonely old man in an empty house." The words hit harder than her finger. I raised my hands, not to defend myself, but in surrender. "Is that really what you think, after everything?" She paused, breathing hard. The anger on her face softened into something else. "Pain, maybe, but harder, colder." "I think you need to hear this," she said finally. "Mom would have wanted you to." "Don't." My voice came out sharp. "Don't bring your mother into this." "Why not?" She knew. She knew what you were like, controlling, always needing to be the center of everything, always making it about your sacrifices. Your mother, I stopped, swallowing hard. Your mother would be ashamed to hear you talk like this. Fern's face went red. Don't you dare bring Mom into this. She's gone because of the stress you caused. Always working, always absent. That's a lie. My voice stayed quiet, but something in it made her hesitate. That's a lie, and you know it. Your mother had a heart condition. The doctors explained it. You were there. Convenient diagnosis, Fern muttered, crossing her arms. A convenient way to avoid responsibility. The kitchen felt smaller. The buzzing fluorescent light grew louder. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, feel the counter's edge pressing into my back. Why are you doing this? I asked softly. What did I do that was so terrible? Love you? Provide for you? Try to give my grandchildren the stability you never had. We want to move, she blurted, the words spilling out as if she'd been holding them in. Vernon and I, we want to sell the house and move to Arizona. Start fresh. But we can't, because it's in your name. Because you'd find a way to stop us. You always do. There it was. The truth. Not philosophy, not buried resentment, just the house. They wanted to sell my house, cash in 15 years of my mortgage payments, and disappear to Arizona. I see. My voice was flat, empty. Do you? She asked, almost pleading now. We're suffocating here, Dad. Vernon can't find work. I'm stuck in retail. The kids are growing up in your shadow. We need a fresh start, but you won't let us have it. I looked at her, really looked at her. When had my little girl, the one who used to hand me tools in the workshop and call herself my helper, become this stranger? What had help turned into control in her eyes? When had love become manipulation? I'll leave you alone now, I said quietly. I pushed away from the counter and walked toward the hallway. Yeah, that's right, she called after me, her voice sharp. Run away like you always do. Can't handle the truth, so you hide, just like you did with Mom. I stopped at the doorway, but didn't turn around. My hand rested on the frame. The house, the one I'd poured 15 years into, suddenly felt like a cage. I just couldn't tell anymore who was trapped inside it. I walked down the hall, leaving Fern alone in the kitchen with her anger, the dirty dishes, and the cold fluorescent light. I closed my bedroom door and sat in the dark for a long time before turning on the lamp. The old rocking chair by the window welcomed me like it always did when sleep wouldn't come. Outside, Chicago wore its winter coat. Snow drifted past the street lamps, headlights cutting through the darkness, and somewhere far off, a siren wailed. My reflection stared back at me in the window glass, an old man, alone with his thoughts. Time moved strangely. I watched the clock crawl from 10 to 11 to midnight. My body ached for sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop replaying the kitchen, the dining room, Fern's eyes cold, distant, accusing. She wanted me gone, not moved away, not retired. Gone, dead. That's what she meant. Near 1 in the morning, I stood. My knees protested. Everything did these days. I walked to the bookshelf, to the few things that still mattered. Maria's books, my old engineering manuals, and under them, the leather-bound photo album. The leather creaked when I opened it, like it remembered every time I turned to it for comfort. The first photo showed Maria in her wedding dress, 1982. Her smile, so bright it seemed to light up the faded page. My younger self stood beside her, 23 years old, and stupidly optimistic about everything ahead. The next few pages told the story of a life I once believed was solid. Baby Fern, her tiny fist wrapped around my finger. Toddler Fern at the playground, her face lit with pure joy as I pushed her on the swings. 5-year-old Fern in my workshop, wearing one of my old hard hats that swallowed her head, handing me a wrench with the kind of seriousness only children can manage. Then I stopped. One photo caught me. Maria holding Fern, maybe 3 years old, both laughing at something just out of frame. Maria wore that yellow sundress. That dress. She wore it to every important moment. Fern's kindergarten graduation, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. In the picture, Fern looked straight at the camera, eyes full of pure, uncomplicated love. When did that change? I traced my finger over Maria's face, careful not to smudge the old print. Maria, I whispered into the empty room. She was smiling, holding baby Fern. Back then, Fern looked at me like I was a hero. The question haunted me. When did Daddy become Dad? Become a burden? Was it after Maria died, 8 years ago, leaving me to navigate Fern's grief alone? Was it when she married Vernon, and money became the only language between us? Or was it slower than that? Death by 1,000 small betrayals I was too busy to notice? I closed the album slowly, feeling the weight of it in my hands. The lamplight caught the scars and calluses on my skin. A lifetime of construction work etched into every line. The burn scar on my right thumb from the welding torch in '98. The deep white slash across my left palm from a piece of sheet metal during the Henderson job. Every mark told a story. Every scar was proof of providing. 15 years. 15 years of mortgage payments. I did the math, sitting there in my rocking chair while Chicago slept. $600 a month on average. Over 15 years, $287,000. Not counting the 3 credit card bailouts that totaled another $18,000. Not counting car repairs, emergency loans, school supplies, or the medical bills when Vernon's insurance lapsed. None of it repaid. None of it even acknowledged. Expected, worse, resented. I heard Maria's voice again, as clear as if she were in the room. Lem, don't let people mistake your kindness for weakness. She used to say that when contractors underbid me. When neighbors asked for favors they never returned. When Fern started calling more often as an adult, but only when she needed something. Tonight, I finally understood what she meant. I stood and walked to the window, pressing my forehead against the cold glass. The city stretched below me, thousands of lights glowing in the snow. Each one a life, probably filled with someone else wondering the same thing. When does helping turn into enabling? When does love turn into a weapon used against you? I thought I was building a legacy, I said to my reflection. Turns out, I was building a prison. But Fern didn't understand. Vernon didn't see it. Maybe even I hadn't, until tonight. I hadn't created their dependency to trap them. I'd done it out of love. Because when your child calls crying at 2 in the morning, you help. When your grandchildren need winter coats, you buy them. When the furnace breaks in January, you fix it. That's what fathers do. What I thought fathers were supposed to do. They twisted that into something ugly, something selfish. As if all I ever wanted was control, when the truth was far simpler. The selfishness wasn't mine. It was theirs. They wanted the house. My equity. My years. My sweat. All wrapped neatly in an Arizona dream. And I was the obstacle. That night, as my family slept, or pretended to, I made a decision. I was done being invisible in my own life. I didn't know how yet. Didn't know what form it would take. But standing there with the cold glass against my forehead and Maria's photo watching from the nightstand, something inside me shifted. Something that had been bending for years finally snapped clean. I turned from the window and looked around the room. My sanctuary, the one space that was truly mine. My eyes fell on the silver frame on the nightstand. Maria's picture. I picked it up, its weight familiar and grounding in my scarred hands. I'm sorry, Maria. I whispered to her frozen smile. I tried. I really tried with her. Setting the photo down gently, I sat on the edge of the bed. Exhaustion washed over me. Not the weariness of defeat, but something else. Something that felt almost like relief. I couldn't change the past. Couldn't undo Fern's words or reclaim the years I'd spent sacrificing. But I could control what happened next. The decision was made, even if the plan wasn't. Outside, snow continued to fall over Chicago, blanketing everything in white. Quiet, pure, and unforgiving. A fresh start. A clean slate. Maybe that's what I needed, too. Not Arizona. Something else. Something that would finally show my daughter what life truly looked like once I stepped aside. I didn't sleep that night. When gray morning light crept through the window, I was still sitting in the rocking chair, watching the city wake beneath its blanket of snow. 7 o'clock arrived without ceremony. My body ached from hours in the chair, but my mind felt sharper than it had in years. Standing took effort. Knees stiff, back sore, but I managed. The hallway stretched quiet and empty before me. No sound from the other bedrooms. Fern and her family were either sleeping late or avoiding me. Either way, it suited me fine. The kitchen still held the ghosts of yesterday. Dirty plates in the sink, the faint smell of cold turkey hanging in the air. I ignored it all, went straight to the coffee maker, dumped in the grounds without measuring. Strong coffee, the kind that strips paint and keeps construction crews running through 14-hour shifts. While it brewed, my eyes drifted to the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one where I kept important papers. The folder was still there, its tab labeled in Maria's careful handwriting. Home documents. I reached up and pulled it down. It felt heavier than it should. Setting it on the kitchen table, I poured myself a mug of coffee, so dark it looked like crude oil, then sat down. Insurance papers, warranty booklets, old utility bills. And then, at the bottom, the contract. Cream-colored paper, edges slightly yellowed. My signature in blue ink. Date, March 15th, 2010. The numbers swam into focus. Property address, 342 Oak Street, Oak Park. Purchase price, $320,000. Primary owner, Lemuel Gomez. Fern's voice from last night echoed in my head. It's your house. Your name. She was right about that. I stared at that signature, and memory pulled me backward, 14 years to the day it all began. Spring 2010. Fern had shown up at my old house, the smaller one Maria and I bought when we first married. A different neighborhood, a different life. I was 50 then, still working construction full-time, still believing retirement was something comfortably distant. The doorbell rang just after breakfast. Through the peephole, I saw Fern, tears streaking her face, baby Sophie bundled in her arms against the March cold. Dad. Her voice broke the moment I opened the door. Dad, we got rejected. She thrust a letter at me. Chase Bank letterhead. Application denied. It said in bold across the top. I read it standing in the doorway while she cried into Sophie's blanket. Credit score insufficient. Debt-to-income ratio unfavorable. Employment history unstable. What about Vernon's job? I asked, already knowing the answer. Fern's face crumpled further. He's between positions right now. The shop laid him off 3 months ago. Between positions. That phrase would become Vernon's permanent state of existence. Please, Dad. The kids need a stable home. We found this perfect place in Oak Park. Good schools, safe neighborhood. We just need help with the down payment. Maybe co-signing. Sophie had chosen that moment to grab my finger, tiny, warm, trusting. 6 months old, completely innocent. I looked at her, then at Fern's desperate face, and felt my resolve crumble. How much do you need? Just co-sign, she said quickly. I promise we'll pay you back once Vernon finds something steady. We drove to Chase Bank that same afternoon. The loan officer, a sharp woman in her 40s with a no-nonsense haircut, reviewed everything with clinical efficiency. Papers spread across her desk, glowing computer screens, numbers that seemed enormous then but feel small now. Mr. Gomez, she said over her glasses, since you're the primary income source with established credit, we'll need to list you as the primary owner. Your daughter will be a co-resident. I hesitated. Primary owner, not co-owner. The difference mattered, but Fern was bouncing Sophie on her knee, making her giggle. I remember thinking, what does it matter? Family takes care of family. That's fine, I said, and signed where she pointed. Family takes care of family. Fern hugged me tight as we left the bank. Sophie sandwiched between us. Thank you, Daddy, she said. You're the best. I promise we'll make you proud. Daddy, that was the last time she ever called me that. The coffee had gone cold in my hand. I was back in 2024, sitting at the same kitchen table, staring at that blue ink signature from a different lifetime. The fine print suddenly seemed larger, clearer. Primary owner, Lemuel Gomez. Co-resident, Fern Gomez Vernon. Mortgage term, 30 years. Monthly payment, approximately $1,600. I reached for my old calculator, the one with the big buttons I used for job estimates. 15 years of payments, 12 months per year, $1,600 on average. The numbers added up cold and clear. $287,000. Not counting interest rate changes. Not counting the times I'd paid extra when they fell behind on utilities. Not counting the 3 credit card bailouts, another $18,000. Not counting Vernon's emergency car repairs that always seemed to happen right before Christmas. I grabbed a blank sheet of paper and began listing it all in neat builder's columns, just like I used to do for project costs. Mortgage payments, $287,000. Credit cards, $18,000. Car repairs, $12,000. School supplies and clothes, $8,000. Emergency loans, $15,000. Miscellaneous bailouts, $9,000. Total, $349,000. $349,000 over 15 years. Not a single dollar repaid. Not one acknowledgement. Just expectation, then resentment, and finally, weaponization. Vernon's between positions had become his identity. Fern's promises to pay me back had become accusations of control. My help had somehow become their prison. I stared at the notepad and wrote, in capital letters, "House totally mine. Legally. Completely." Fern had meant it as an accusation when she said, "Your house." But she'd accidentally told the truth. It was my house. My name on the deed. My money in every nail, every shingle, every memory. Footsteps creaked overhead. Someone was awake. I gathered the papers quickly, slid them back into the folder, and stood. My legs felt steadier now. Purpose has a way of strengthening old bones. I walked back to my bedroom, the folder clutched like a weapon. Passing the hallway mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself. A 65-year-old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but standing taller than I had in years. Behind me stretched the house I'd built. My house. Every inch of it earned. Ahead of me lay a plan I hadn't fully formed yet, but it was taking shape with every step I took. The bedroom door closed behind me with a soft click. I placed the folder on my nightstand beside Maria's photo. Her smile seemed to know, maybe even to approve. I had proof now, legal, financial, moral, if such a thing existed. What came next was just logistics. When I picked up the phone to make that call from my bedroom, it felt secretive, clandestine, almost, which was ridiculous. But maybe for the first time in years, I wasn't acting out of guilt. I was acting out of clarity. This was my house. My decision. My right. But still, I kept my voice low. Mark Rivera's number sat tucked in my wallet, the business card a little worn from years of carrying it. We'd worked together 2 decades ago, back when his firm handled contract law for the construction company I worked for. Since then, he'd gone solo, built a small private practice, and kept Saturday hours for friends who needed help. I dialed. "Mark Rivera." "Mark, it's Lem Gomez. I need legal advice." A short pause. "Lem?" "Sure, buddy. What's going on?" "You sound." "I'll explain in person." I cut him off gently. "Can you see me tomorrow?" "Saturday morning? 10 o'clock work?" "Perfect." I hung up before he could ask more questions. That gave me Friday, one long, quiet day, to prepare what I'd say. How do you tell your lawyer that your daughter wished you dead and you're planning to take everything back? There aren't words for that, but I had 24 hours to find them. Friday crawled by like an injured animal. I spent most of it in my bedroom, claiming I wasn't feeling well when Sophie knocked to ask if I wanted lunch. Her small, worried voice pierced deeper than I wanted it to. Fern's silence didn't surprise me anymore, but Sophie's care, that hurt. That afternoon, I opened my laptop and dove into Illinois property law, words I'd never thought I'd need to understand. Asterisk tenancy at will, primary ownership rights, eviction procedures. Asterisk the language was dry and cold, but beneath it lay one simple truth. The person whose name was on the deed held the power. Period. That night, I couldn't sleep, not out of grief, but focus. By dawn, I had a plan forming in my head. At 7:30, I showered for the first time in 2 days, put on my good clothes, charcoal slacks, blue button-down, the same outfit I'd worn to Maria's funeral. Out of respect. For Mark's time, and maybe for what I was about to do. I grabbed the folder and my wallet. The house was silent as I left. If anyone heard me go, I didn't come out to ask. The blue line from Oak Park to downtown took about 30 minutes. I boarded at Harlem Station, found a seat by the window, and watched Chicago wake up. Neighborhood blocks turned to warehouses, then skyscrapers scraping the winter sky. Lake Michigan glimmered in the distance, cold and endless. Other passengers ignored me, typical Chicago train etiquette. A mother with 2 kids, a teenager with headphones, a man in a suit flipping through documents. Each of us lost in our own private world, hurtling underground toward whatever needed to be fixed. At Washington Station, I climbed to street level and was hit by the November wind, sharp enough to sting my eyes. I walked fast, folder tucked under my arm like a secret. Mark's building stood tall and polished, glass and steel, success reflected in every window. Inside, a marble lobby, a security desk, a board guard who waved me toward the elevators after I signed in. 28th floor. My ears popped on the way up. The elevator doors opened to sleek brass letters. Rivera and Associates, small firm. Big impression. The young receptionist smiled. Mr. Gomez, Mr. Rivera's expecting you. Second door on the right. Mark's office looked exactly how I'd imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown, Lake Michigan's frozen edges glittering in the distance. Mark himself stood as I entered. Mid-50s now, fit, silver at the temples, that same calm confidence he'd always had. Lem, he said warmly, shaking my hand. Sit down. Coffee? You look like you could use it. I'm past coffee, I replied, lowering myself into the leather chair. I slid the folder across the desk. I need answers. He nodded, settling in. His casual tone disappeared the moment he opened the folder. Reading glasses on, eyes narrowing in concentration. The room went quiet except for the soft rustle of paper and the faint hum of the city outside. Minutes passed. A helicopter crossed the skyline beyond the window. Mark kept flipping through pages, cross-checking something on his computer, likely the state property database. He jotted quick notes in messy handwriting, his brow furrowed. Finally, he leaned back, took off his glasses, and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Lem, he said, voice steady, legally speaking, this property is entirely yours. Something loosened in my chest. Validation. Explain, I said quietly. He tapped the contract. You're listed as the primary owner. It's your name, your credit, your payments. Your daughter's designation, co-resident, means she's essentially a tenant. No ownership rights. You've been paying for, he flipped through his notes, 15 years. Can I take it back? Mark blinked. Take it back? Lem, you never gave it away. They're tenants living in your property. He leaned forward slightly, concern edging his voice. What exactly are you asking? I met his eyes. What if I want them out? Mark let out a long breath, then gave a low whistle, setting his pen down slowly. That's heavy. They're family. Family that told me. I stopped. Reconsider my words. But if I couldn't say it to my lawyer, who could I say it to? Family that told me the best gift I could give them would be when I'm no longer around. I paused, then added quietly, my daughter said that. To my face. On Thanksgiving. The office went silent. Even the hum of the city, 28 floors below, seemed to fade. Mark stared at me, his professional calm slipping for the first time. She said that. Word for word. I nodded. He clicked his pen twice, a habit I remembered from years ago, then sighed. Okay, he said finally, voice measured again. You have every legal right to do this. Under Illinois law, eviction requires written notice. Standard is 30 days without cause. Can I do it faster? They're month-to-month residents, right? No formal lease? Yes. Then technically, you can give as little as 14 days, 2 weeks. But, Lem, he leaned forward, his tone softening. Are you absolutely sure? Once you do this, it's permanent. Family doesn't come back from something like this. I thought about Fern's cold stare, Vernon's lazy excuses, 15 years of being their safety net, until I became their scapegoat. Then their burden. Then a man they wished gone. I'm sure, I said. More sure than I've been about anything in years. Mark studied me for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. All right, I'll draft the notice. It has to be formal, in writing, with a clear vacate date. He hesitated. Where will you be during all this? Somewhere warm, I said. I hadn't thought about it much, but the words felt right. Away from this cold. From all of it. Mark turned to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. The printer came to life behind him, spitting out sheets of paper. Legal language that would sever 15 years of obligation. 2 weeks' notice that would end 3 decades of quiet servitude. He signed the bottom, then slid the document across the desk. I'll hold this until you're ready to serve it. Once you deliver it, in person or by certified mail, there's no going back. They'll have 14 days from receipt to vacate. I picked up the envelope. It felt light as air, but heavy with consequence. Thank you, Mark. Don't thank me yet. He came around the desk, resting a firm hand on my shoulder. Just be ready for what comes next. Family wars get ugly fast. It's already ugly, I said quietly. We shook hands again. His grip carried something deeper than professionalism. Maybe respect. Maybe understanding. The kind of shared silence between two men who knew that sometimes walking away wasn't weakness. It was survival. At the door, he called out, Lem? Yeah. For what it's worth, he said, I think you're doing the right thing. I met his eyes. That makes one of us. But I was lying. Standing there, high above the city with that envelope in my hand, I felt something I hadn't felt since Maria died. Certainty. The kind that doesn't waver. The kind that costs something. The door closed softly behind me. The train ride home felt different. The envelope sat in my coat pocket. Quiet, powerful, final. When I reached Oak Park, it was nearly noon. I stopped by a small diner near the station, ordered coffee, and a sandwich I barely tasted. My mind was miles ahead, rehearsing what came next. That envelope, tucked close to my chest, felt like a weapon. A clean, legal one. When I got home around 2, the house greeted me with silence, the intentional kind. No TV, no footsteps, just the faint hum of the heater. On the counter sat a note in Fern's handwriting. Asterisk went to Outlet Mall. Back tonight. F asterisk. Perfect. Hours alone. I hung my coat neatly, walked to my bedroom, and slid Mark's envelope into the nightstand drawer, right beneath Maria's photo. Then I turned to the living room. My old desktop sat there, covered in dust. I pressed the power button. It groaned to life, fans whirring like it resented being woken up. While it booted, I made tea, a small ritual for calm. Then I sat down and opened my laptop. My online banking took forever to load. Password. Security question. Second attempt. Finally, I was in. Account summary. Pension account. $197, $349, asterisk, asterisk. Enough. More than enough. I reached for the Chase Bank statement from the folder, found a customer service number, and dialed. Thank you for calling Chase Bank, said the automated voice. For account information, press 1. I pressed through the menu until finally a real voice answered. Chase Bank, this is Patricia. How may I help you today? Professional. Polite. Completely unaware she was about to witness my escape. I need information about my mortgage account, I said, reciting the number from memory. 15 years of payments had burned it into me. Certainly, sir. May I verify your identity? I gave my details, waited as she typed. Thank you, Mr. Gomez, she said finally. I have your account here. What can I help you with? What's my remaining balance? A pause. Your current mortgage balance is $43,127.89. The number hung in the air. 43,000. 15 years of payments, and that was all that stood between me and total freedom. I want to pay it off, I said. My voice didn't shake. Today, in full. Another pause. Her tone brightened. Oh, wonderful. May I ask the reason for early payoff? Personal. Of course. Once we receive the funds, processing takes 24 to 48 hours. You'll receive a satisfaction of mortgage document shortly after. I opened a new browser tab, logged in my bank, and set up the transfer from pension account to mortgage account. Amount, $43,127.89. My finger hovered over confirm. Nearly a quarter of my retirement savings, gone in one click. But what was I saving it for? For people who saw me as an inconvenience? For a daughter who wanted me gone? I clicked. Transfer initiated, said the screen. Funds will be withdrawn immediately. It's done, I told Patricia. Excellent, she said cheerfully. And just to confirm, the property at 342 Oak Street will now be fully under your name. No co-owners. That's correct, I said. Just me. Congratulations, Mr. Gomez. Paying off a mortgage is a big accomplishment. Thank you. We said our goodbyes. When the call ended, I stared at the screen. The words glowed back at me. Paid in full, pending final processing. A new email pinged. Your payment has been received and is processing. I printed it. The paper came out warm, smelling faintly of ink and inevitability. I read it again and again. Those 3 words, asterisk paid in full asterisk, felt heavier than anything I'd ever built with my hands. I slid the printout into the Home Documents folder beside the original contract, closed a drawer, and locked it. Then I sat back, letting the realization sink in. 15 years, $287,000 with interest. And in one afternoon, one phone call, one click, I'd reclaimed what was always mine. The sunlight poured through the windows, turning floating dust into gold. The house creaked softly, alive, familiar. Mine. I looked down at the printed words again. Property address, 342 Oak Street. Owner, Lemuel Gomez. Mortgage, paid in full, asterisk asterisk. When Fern had spat out, your house, like it was an insult, she had no idea how right she was. A car door slammed outside, distant. Probably a neighbor. I tucked the printout away, closed the cabinet, and pocketed the key. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. I stood by the window, watching Oak Park bathe in late afternoon light. Snow melting on sidewalks, a child pedaling past on a bike. Normal life, moving on. Another car door. Closer this time. Fern's voice drifted through the glass, sharp and familiar. They were back. I straightened my face, smoothed my shirt, checked my reflection in the window. The man looking back seemed calm, controlled. They'd never guess what I'd done while they were out spending money they didn't have. The front door opened. Footsteps. Shopping bags rustled. Sophie's voice asked Vernon something about dinner. I stayed at the window, just an old man watching the world outside, waiting for night to fall. That night, I stayed upstairs while they watched TV. Laughter floated up through the vents. Sophie's giggle, Vernon's occasional joke, Fern's voice, sharp and comfortable in her own home. A home that wasn't hers. I sat by the window, Hawaii tickets hidden in the nightstand drawer, and waited for Sunday. Morning came cold and gray. I woke at 6:30 to silence. They were still sleeping after their shopping spree. Perfect. I dressed in layers, thermal shirt, sweater, heavy coat, and left a note on the counter. Gone out, nothing more. They didn't deserve explanations anymore. The red line from Oak Park to downtown took about 40 minutes. I sat near the back, watching Chicago wake up through streaked windows. Sunday morning riders. A nurse in scrubs heading for a hospital shift. A young couple dressed for brunch. A man my age clutching a grocery bag. Each of us traveling with our own silent purpose, invisible to one another. Michigan Avenue met me with its familiar brand of winter misery. Wind off Lake Michigan sliced through my coat like it held a personal grudge. The Magnificent Mile lived up to its name, even in December. Towering stores, elaborate window displays, and strings of holiday lights hanging between buildings. Tourists bundled against the cold, taking selfies and clutching shopping bags. I walked aimlessly, hands buried in my pockets. Just wanted to be anywhere but home. Past Macy's with its animated Christmas windows. Past Tiffany's, where engagement rings glimmered beneath perfect lighting. Past families spilling out of brunch spots, kids bouncing with pancake energy, parents smiling wearily. The crowd made me invisible, and that felt right. No one looked twice at an old man in a gray coat walking alone. I could have been anyone. I could have been nobody. Then I stopped. The travel agency's storefront wasn't large, wedged between a luggage shop and a Starbucks, but its window display hit me like a jolt. Pacific Dreams Travel in blue letters above the door. And in the window, a massive poster. Escape to Paradise, Hawaii, $799. The image beneath the word stopped me cold. Waikiki Beach at sunset. Turquoise water clear enough to see the sandy bottom. Golden beaches stretching toward impossible palm trees. The sky streaked with oranges and pinks that didn't exist anywhere in Chicago's gray December. A woman walked into the surf, arms outstretched, like she was embracing the world. My reflection hovered in the glass. An old man, tired eyes, gray hair, superimposed over paradise. The contrast was almost funny. Almost. When was the last time I did something for myself? The thought arrived, whole, and uninvited. I couldn't remember. Years? Decades? Everything had been about Fern, about the grandkids, about keeping their lives afloat while mine stood still. Even after Maria's death, I just redirected my grief into giving. More time, more money, more of myself, waiting for gratitude that never came. The bold yellow $799 glared back at me. I had $143,000 sitting in my pension account. Simple math. 0.5% of my savings for 2 weeks in paradise. Less than a single mortgage payment. But hesitation crept in. Was this running away? Cowardice? Then Maria's voice echoed in my head. Not a memory, but a moment. 20 years ago. The two of us on the porch one hot summer evening, lemonade sweating in our hands. Someday, when we retire, she'd said, let's go to Hawaii. Just us. No schedules. Just the ocean. We never went. There was always something. Fur needed help. Money was tight. Then Maria got sick. Always something. This is an escape, I said softly. A woman passing by gave me a quick, nervous glance. Old man talking to himself, and hurried on. This is what you earn, I whispered, when you finally stop letting people take. The decision settled in me like a solid stone. I pushed open the door. A bell chimed. Warm air hit me, fogging my glasses. The walls were plastered with island posters. Maui waterfalls, big island cliffs, endless blue skies. Steel drum music hummed through hidden speakers. Even the coconut-scented air freshener tried to sell me a dream. Behind a desk sat a woman in her 30s, dark hair neatly tied back, smile professional but kind. Good morning. Looking to escape the cold. You could say that. I unzipped my coat. Tell me about Hawaii. Her face lit up. Commission or not, the enthusiasm felt real. Our most popular package, 2 weeks in Oahu, beachfront hotel in Waikiki. Round-trip flights, activities, car rental options, everything's included. She spread brochures across the desk like playing cards. When were you thinking of traveling? How soon can I leave? She hesitated, fingers poised over her keyboard. Let's see. We have openings for December 3rd. That's Tuesday. 2 days. 2 days between decision and departure. It felt reckless. It felt perfect. Book it. Her surprise flickered genuine this time. Most people need to think about it first. Not this time. Just me. Solo traveler. All right, she said, typing quickly. We have several hotel tiers, basic, ocean view, beachfront suite. I chose without hesitation. Upgraded beachfront room. Morning flight. No car. No tour packages. No plans. She calculated, fingers dancing across the calculator keys. Total comes to $1,947, including all taxes and fees. 14 nights, round-trip flights, airport transfers, the works. I handed over my credit card, not the pension account. That stayed untouched, sacred. As the machine processed, she chatted cheerfully about the islands. Perfect weather, sunsets that didn't look real, beaches that made you forget your own name. The printer spat out receipts and boarding passes. She stapled everything neatly and slid them toward me in a glossy folder labeled, Your Hawaiian Adventure. Tuesday, 9 a.m. flight from O'Hare, she said. Arrives in Honolulu around noon, local time. Celebrating something special? I looked at her, young, bright, untouched by life's slow bruising. How could I explain 15 years of thankless sacrifice? My daughter wishing me gone? The decision to finally take my life back? You could say that, I said, smiling, really smiling for the first time in days. She smiled back, warm and uncomplicated. Well, congratulations. You're going to love it. The ocean is like nothing else. Outside, the December wind tried to rip the folder from my hands, but I held it tight. 2 weeks. Sunday ocean. Freedom. I stood there on Michigan Avenue, surrounded by holiday lights and strangers, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, anticipation. Not dread, not duty, just pure, forward-leaning hope. The ticket said December 3rd. 48 hours. I tucked the folder under my coat and walked back toward the train. Chicago's cold couldn't touch me anymore. I was already somewhere warmer. That night, I avoided dinner, staying in my room with the tickets spread across the bed like treasure maps. Monday morning, Fern left at 8. I heard her car fade down the street. Vernon's voice drifted up, taking the kids to Sky Zone, back by 6. By 4 in the afternoon, the house was mine again. The kitchen glowed under soft winter sunlight. The same table where Fern had looked me in the eye last week and told me the best gift I could give her was my absence. Blank paper, blue pen, deep breath. Dear Fern. I crossed it out. Too soft, too sentimental. This wasn't a father writing to his daughter. This was a property owner addressing his tenants. Fern and Vernon, both names. Both responsible. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not gone in the way you once wished, but gone in a different sense. Absent from your lives, finally and completely. The first draft of the letter felt too emotional, too full of explanations they didn't deserve. I tore it up. The second was worse. Angry, overflowing with every betrayal I could remember. The third was cold, almost cruel. I didn't want cruelty. I wanted clarity. Boundaries. Something they should have understood years ago. On the fourth attempt, I slowed down. Chose each word like it was evidence in court because, in a way, it was. I knew this note would be read, reread, analyzed, maybe even shown to lawyers or friends, twisted into some online plea for sympathy. Every word had to withstand scrutiny. Every line had to hold up to the truth. When it was done, I read it aloud to the empty kitchen. Fern and Vernon. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not gone the way you wished on Thanksgiving, but gone from your lives entirely. I paid off the mortgage. The house at 342 Oak Street, Oak Park, is now fully in my name. You'll find proof attached. You have 14 days from today, December 2nd, 2024, to vacate the property. I'll return on December 17th. If you're still here, I'll proceed with legal eviction. This isn't cruelty. It's consequence. You wanted me gone. Now you're gone. But on my terms, not yours. I've spent 15 years sacrificing for you. $287,000 in payments, countless hours of worry. And what did I get in return? A wish for my death. I'm going to live my life now, the one I put on hold for you. Don't try to reach me. I won't answer. Lim Gomez. I read it 3 times. Every word felt precise. Cold, perhaps, but fair. The hardest part was finding the right tone. Not angry, not sad, just finished. Complete. For a moment, I considered softening it, adding a line about hoping they'd learn from this, or how I'd miss Sophie and Alex. But why? Any hint of tenderness would be twisted, used as leverage. No, this was right. Clean. Surgical. From the living room, I retrieved the mortgage satisfaction document, stamp paid in full in red across the top. I folded it neatly, wrapped it in the letter, and sealed both in a large manila envelope. On the front, in bold black marker, I wrote, Fern and Vernon, read immediately. Now came the question of placement. The counter? Too easy to overlook. The fridge? They might not notice until morning. Then I saw it, the crystal vase in the center of the table. Maria's vase. A wedding gift from her family, its cut glass scattering tiny rainbows across the walls when light hit it just right. She'd kept it full of fresh flowers until the illness made it impossible. I lifted the vase carefully, slid the envelope beneath it, and set it back down. Its weight pinned the letter perfectly in place. To see it, they'd have to move Maria's legacy first, to uncover their consequences. Symbolism I didn't miss. From the doorway, I checked. The envelope's corner stuck out, just enough. Impossible to miss. Perfect. Back in my bedroom, the old blue Samsonite lay open on the bed, scuffed but sturdy. Packing felt ceremonial. Each item was deliberate. A catalog of lost chances and quiet hopes. Swim trunks from a pool party I'd never attended. 3 unopened Hawaiian shirts. Shorts, sandals, sunscreen, sunglasses, and Lonesome Dove. An 800-page novel I'd always meant to read. Every fold precise, every corner aligned. Years in construction had taught me efficiency. Maximum use, minimum waste. The zipper closed with a satisfying sound. Final. I placed the suitcase by the door and turned to my phone. Changed the voicemail. I'm away. Don't call. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Not if I'm ready. When? My choice. My timing. The Uber to O'Hare was scheduled for 5:45 a.m. flight United 1204 to Honolulu, gate C24, departure 9 a.m. Everything was set. I sat on the bed, staring at the packed suitcase. Downstairs, the envelope waited beneath Maria's vase like a silent verdict. I imagined Fern finding it, lifting the vase in irritation, reading the words, the shock spreading across her face. The disbelief, the rage, the panic when she realized this wasn't negotiable. For years, I'd feared her disappointment, her anger, her judgment. Now I felt none of it. No satisfaction, no revenge, just clarity. Boundaries finally drawn. By 5:30 p.m., Vernon's car pulled into the driveway. Children's laughter echoed faintly through the walls. I stayed upstairs, unseen, letting the sounds of an ordinary evening fill a house I no longer belonged to. On the nightstand, Maria's photo smiled back, young, eternal, understanding. "I hope you understand," I whispered. I tried. I really did. But even love has limits. Even fathers reach their threshold. When the alarm rang at 5 a.m., I silenced it instantly, old habit from years of early shifts. I dressed in the dark, jeans, t-shirt, jacket, comfortable clothes for a long flight. The house around me was silent. Vernon's snoring down the hall, the furnace humming. Sophie and Alex dreaming the last peaceful dreams before their world changed. Each step down the staircase felt like a quiet rehearsal for freedom. Third step, seventh, 10th, still creaked, even when I tried to avoid them. I smiled at the irony. At the kitchen doorway, I paused. The vase shimmered faintly in the early light, prisms scattering across the walls. The envelope remained, waiting, an unmoved truth. I could have left a text, a call, a softer message, but softness had cost me 15 years. I turned away, opened the front door, and walked out into my own life. The cold December air struck my face, sharp, clean, clarifying. I closed the door behind me with a soft click that felt like punctuation. A final sentence. A paragraph break. The end of a chapter. The Uber waited at the curb, a white Toyota Camry. The app said the driver's name was Ahmed. Mid-30s, tired eyes reflected in the rearview mirror. He helped load my suitcase into the trunk without a word. Another early airport run. Nothing remarkable about me. Terminal 3, United, I said. He nodded. Yes, sir. As we pulled away from 342 Oak Street, I glanced back once. The house sat in darkness. Except for the single porch light I'd forgotten to switch off. Black windows, quiet walls, secrets sleeping inside. One family's comfortable lies about to wake into uncomfortable truth. Then we turned the corner, and the house disappeared from view. I-90 at 5:45 a.m., nearly empty. A few semis hauling freight. Early shift workers. Other airport-bound travelers. Our headlights carved through the pre-dawn dark. The Chicago skyline shimmered faintly in the distance, glass towers catching the first threads of light. The city looked magnificent, indifferent to the tiny human dramas unfolding beneath it. Ahmed didn't speak, and I was grateful for the silence. Soft jazz hummed on the radio. I watched the city slide past. Warehouses, suburbs, airport hotels, until the enormous terminals of O'Hare rose ahead like spacecraft ready for launch. He pulled up to Terminal 3, United. Help with my bag. I thanked him, the tip already added in the app. He nodded once, then drove off. For a moment, I stood on the curb, watching the flow of travelers. Families with sleepy children, business people in tailored coats, couples clutching passports. The restless energy of early departures filled the air. Inside, the terminal buzzed with organized chaos. Check-in kiosks blinked and beeped. Screens instructed people through digital steps with mechanical cheer. I typed in my confirmation number, printed my boarding pass. Seat 17A, window. Perfect. At bag drop, I set my suitcase on the belt. Watched it glide away into the system. Tagged for Honolulu. Watching it disappear felt symbolic. My old life traveling ahead, waiting to be unpacked somewhere warmer, freer. Security was quick at this hour. Shoes off, belt off, wallet and book in the tray. No laptop. I'd left that part of life behind. I walked through the scanner. No alarms. No second glance. Just another traveler in a crowd of thousands. Gate C-24. I arrived at 7:15 a.m., far too early for a 9 o'clock flight. Bought a burnt, overpriced airport coffee for $6.50 and sat in a chair clearly designed to discourage comfort. I watched people gather. A young honeymoon couple, a family with 3 overexcited kids, business travelers typing furiously on laptops. Then there were the solo travelers like me. Most looked focused. I just felt liberated, escaped, reborn, maybe all of the above. My phone sat silent in my pocket. 8 a.m., 8:15, 8:25, 8:32. Then it started. First vibration, Fern Mobile. I watched it buzz. Didn't answer. Let roll to voicemail. 8:33. Again. Ignored. 8:34. 8:35. 8:37. Relentless. Desperate. I flipped the phone face down on my thigh. I couldn't see the screen anymore, but each vibration pulsed through me like a heartbeat. A few passengers looked over, irritated by the persistent buzzing. I could almost hear their thoughts. That guy who won't answer his phone. 8:40. 12 missed calls. I sipped the coffee. It was terrible. I took another sip anyway. 8:45. Voicemail notifications stacked up. I didn't need to listen. I could imagine the sequence perfectly. Shock giving way to anger, then panic. The same cycle Fern always went through whenever life refused to bend to her will. 8:50. Another call. I watched the screen flash again. Fern Mobile. For a moment, I debated. Ignoring her made a point, but answering might make a bigger one. Letting her hear calm where she expected chaos. Letting her know she no longer had power. 8:55, another call. I answered. "What is this, Dad?" she shouted. Her voice was so loud, I had to hold the phone away. A few nearby passengers turned their heads. I lowered the volume and pressed the phone back to my ear. "You found the note," I said quietly. "Good. You can't do this. This is our home." "No," I replied evenly. "It's my home. Check the documents." "You're kicking us out?" she cried, hysteria bleeding through her words. "Where are we supposed to go?" "Not my problem," I said. "You have 14 days. This is insane. You're being cruel. I'm being fair. You wanted me gone. Now you're gone." "Dad, please." Her tone shifted, trembling, tears forming. Right on cue. Rage didn't work, so she'd reach for page one of her old playbook, pleading. "We can talk about this. We talked on Thanksgiving," I reminded her. "You said the best gift I could give was my death. I'm giving you a different one, a lesson." In the background, I heard Vernon's muffled voice. "Let me talk to him." "No," I said sharply. "Vernon, find a job. You've had 15 years. Fern's voice cracked. "Where are you going?" "You'll never find me." Silence. In that pause, I heard everything, the dawning realization that this time was different, that her father wasn't bluffing, that for the first time in her adult life, Daddy wasn't going to fix it. "Goodbye, Fern." I ended the call, powered off the phone completely. Not just silent off. The screen went dark. Dead. Quiet. Perfect. I sat on the seat beside me and finished my cold coffee. The taste didn't matter. Over the intercom, United Flight 1204 to Honolulu will begin boarding in approximately 5 minutes. Zone 1 passengers may line up at this time. I stood, stretching stiff joints that protested after an hour in that rigid chair. Pain I could live with, sunshine would fix that soon enough. I joined the crowd at the gate. Families gathered their children, couples checked tickets, business travelers finished last-minute emails. The gate agent appeared, practiced smile, calm tone. "Thank you for your patience. We'll now begin boarding United Flight 1204 to Honolulu. Zone 1 passengers, welcome aboard." Zone 1 went first class, frequent flyers, the privileged few. Then came my turn. Zone 2 passengers, welcome aboard. I scanned my boarding pass. Beep. Approved. Down the jetway, the narrow, metallic tunnel connecting the old world to the new. Ahead waited the aircraft, a Boeing 777, gleaming under fluorescent light. The flight attendant smiled as I stepped on board. "Welcome aboard, sir. Seat 17A, to your left. Halfway down the aisle, I found it. Window seat, emergency exit row, extra legroom. Perfect. A couple filled 17B and 17C, both in their 60s, dressed in matching Hawaiian shirts. She caught me looking and smiled. "First time to Hawaii?" she asked. "In a way," I said. "Oh, you'll love it," she beamed. "We're celebrating our 40th anniversary. Hawaii is magical." I smiled politely, turned toward the window. I didn't tell her I was celebrating too. The end of obligation, the beginning of peace. The cabin filled with movement, bins closing, seatbelts clicking, announcements droning. Then came the sound I've been waiting for, the heavy, final clunk of the cabin door sealing shut. That sound meant commitment. No more boarding. No more turning back, that we were sealed inside the metal tube until Hawaii. The PA system crackled to life. Asterisk flight attendants, prepare for departure. Asterisk the plane jerked backward, pushed by a tug I couldn't see, then began its slow crawl toward the runway. Through the window, I watched terminals glide past, other planes lining up for their turn, ground crews in reflective vests guiding the chaos. The captain's voice came over the speakers, calm and practiced. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're number 3 for takeoff. Flight time to Honolulu is approximately 9 hours. We'll be cruising at 39,000 feet. Weather in Honolulu is 82 degrees and sunny." 82 and sunny, the exact opposite of everything I was leaving behind. The plane turned onto the runway and paused. Engines roared, a deep, rising whine that made the air vibrate. Power built, and then acceleration hit, pushing me back in my seat, lights flashing by faster and faster until that suspended second between earth and air. And then lift. Smooth, sure, inevitable. Chicago fell away below us, shrinking into a grid of frozen streets. Lake Michigan glinted beneath the morning sun, and downtown, the place where my escape plan became real, looked small, almost unreal. Everything I'd known was now behind me, fading into abstraction. At 35,000 feet, the seatbelt light chimed off. Passengers relaxed, reclining seats, opening books, closing eyes. I opened Lonesome Dove and ran my hand over the first page. The prose was slow and heavy, like stepping into another world. Perfect. A flight attendant stopped beside me. "Something to drink?" It was 9:45 a.m., too early for alcohol, but vacation rules applied. "Tomato juice, please." She poured it over ice and handed it to me. I'd never liked tomato juice before, never even tried it, really. But today, everything felt new. I took a sip. Tangy. Salty. Odd, but not unpleasant. Below, the clouds swallowed Chicago. Somewhere under them, Fern was spiraling. Vernon would be useless. Sophie and Alex confused. Mark probably fielding desperate calls, searching for some legal loophole to stop what I'd already set in motion. And me? I was 35,000 feet up, reading a Western and sipping tomato juice, finally on my way to the ocean that had waited 65 years for me to arrive. 3 hours later, we began to descend. Through the window, Hawaii rose from the endless blue, volcanic ridges wrapped in green, beaches traced in white, water so vividly turquoise it looked impossible. Landing felt like entering another world. When the cabin door opened, warm tropical air poured in, thick, humid, heavy with the scent of flowers I couldn't name. After months of Chicago cold, it felt like breathing for the first time. Baggage claim moved slowly, but I didn't mind. A hotel representative held up a sign, Hilton Hawaiian Village. She greeted me with a plumeria lei so fragrant it made me dizzy. "Aloha. Welcome to paradise." "Aloha," I repeated. The word felt strange on my tongue. "It's good to be here." The shuttle driver talked nonstop about beaches and luau's. I half listened, staring out the window as Waikiki drifted by. Palm trees, bursts of blue ocean, tourists strolling without urgency. Everything here moved slower. Check-in took 20 minutes. The hotel lobby had no walls, just pillars and open air. Koi glided through ponds. Children laughed somewhere unseen, and the ocean shimmered beyond the gardens. Room 1247, 12th floor. I shared the elevator with a honeymooning couple who couldn't stop touching each other. They got off at 11. I rode the rest of the way alone, carrying my thoughts, my suitcase, and this new, weightless feeling in my chest. The room was simple: bed, desk, balcony. I dropped my bag and walked straight to the sliding door. Opened it. Stepped out. The ocean stretched endlessly before me. Waikiki Beach curved golden in both directions, waves rolling in like steady breathing. Surfers dotted the water. Diamond Head rose to the right, volcanic, ancient, utterly indifferent to human drama. I just stood there breathing, salt in the air, the sweetness of plumeria from Islay, the faint smell of sunscreen carried up from below. The ocean's rhythm was eternal, unchanged for millions of years, before I existed and long after I'd be gone. No one knew where I was. No one needed me. No one could take from me anymore. That first day, I did absolutely nothing. I changed into shorts, my legs pale from Chicago winters and years of construction sites. Walked barefoot to the beach. The sand burned until I reached the cool, wet edge. I rented a chair, an umbrella from a cheerful kid who called me uncle. Then I lay down and closed my eyes. The ocean became my soundtrack. Waves breaking, children laughing, music drifting from a hotel bar, a jet ski buzzing in the distance. I drifted in and out of sleep, time dissolving completely. My phone stayed in the room, still powered off. No one could reach me. That silence felt like freedom, physical, undeniable, like setting down a weight I'd carried too long. When the sun began to set, I returned to my room, showered, ordered dinner, and ate on the balcony. Watched the ocean shift from blue to gold to gray. Then slept 10 hours, dreamless. The next morning, I decided to surf. My instructor, Jake, was maybe 25, tan, endlessly upbeat, and radiating that effortless Hawaiian ease. A small group gathered, 2 college girls, a family with a teenage son, and me. First time surfing, bro, he grinned. First time doing anything just for fun in 15 years. He paused, board tucked under his arm, eyes softening. Whoa, heavy. Well, let's fix that. On the sand, surfing looked easy. Paddle, pop up, balance. Jake moved like water, smooth and effortless. The college girls giggled, the teenager yawned. I focused, determined to get it right. In the water, everything changed. The board wobbled. The waves that looked gentle from shore hit with surprising force. I paddled, Jake yelled, pop up. I tried, slipped, face first into salt water. Came up coughing, nose burning. Jake laughed, not unkindly. Again, and again. Felt every time. My arms burned. The college girls cheered as they stood for the first time. The teenager wiped out spectacularly. Then somehow I got it. Popped up, found my balance, glided for maybe 3 seconds. Long enough to feel it flying without leaving the earth. Then I fell. But I was laughing. I'm too old for this, I gasped. Jake grinned. Nah, man, you're never too old to try. I tried 8 more times. Managed to stand twice. Laughed every single time I failed. When the lesson ended, I was exhausted, muscles trembling, face sore from smiling. I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed that hard at myself. That afternoon, I took a long nap. Didn't fight it. Day 3, I woke early and hiked Diamond Head. The path wound steeply upward, switchbacks, stairs, tunnels carved into volcanic rock. Sweat soaked my shirt. My legs burned. Families and couples passed me easily, but I kept climbing, slow, steady, stubborn. When I reached the summit, it opened like a revelation. 360 degrees of sky and sea. Waikiki, small below. The mountains stretching endlessly into mist. The wind rushed up from the crater, cool, clean, alive. And for the first time in years, so as I stood at the railing, breathless, my heart pounding. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive. Tourists around me snapped selfies. A family handed me their phone, asking for a photo. I smiled, took the picture, and handed it back. To them, I was just another old guy hiking a mountain. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to be. No backstory, no baggage, just a man among strangers. The descent was easier. At the bottom, I bought a shave ice from a truck, rainbow-flavored, sweet, and freezing cold. It was the best thing I'd tasted in years. Days began to blend into an easy rhythm. Morning at the farmer's market. Fresh pineapple, so juicy it ran down my chin. Lunch was poke bowl, raw ahi tuna with soy and sesame, tasting like the ocean itself. Afternoons were for beach chairs, books, and naps under the sun. Evenings for my ties, watching the sky melt into impossible colors. One night, I went to a luau. Fire dancers spun flames. Hula dancers told stories with their hands, and ukulele music drifted through the warm air. I sat beside a retired couple, Tom and Linda, both in their 70s, still holding hands like teenagers. "Are you here with family?" Linda asked during intermission. "No," I said. "Just me. First solo trip." Tom grinned. "Good for you. We've been coming here for 20 years. Best decision we ever made." "I should have done this sooner," I admitted. Linda patted my arm. "Better late than never, honey." Another day, I did nothing at all. Found a palm tree near the hotel, spread out a towel, and opened Lonesome Dove. Read 50 pages, then dozed off. When I woke, a tiny hermit crab was crawling across my book. I laughed, and it scuttled away, offended. No one needed me. No one called. No one took from me. On day 7, I rented a bright yellow single-person kayak, paddled past the reef where the turquoise water turned deep navy and the ocean floor disappeared. Silver fish darted beneath me. My arms ached, but it was a good kind of ache, earned, not endured. I stopped paddling, let the current drift me. A pelican landed nearby, watching me with one yellow eye before diving for fish. I laughed out loud. That bird didn't care who I was or what I'd survived. It just wanted fish. That evening, back at the hotel, I washed off the sand and smiled, really smiled. I ordered Ono fish for dinner. Local catch, perfectly grilled. The beer was cold, the sunset was free, and the waiter was kind. Halfway through the meal, I realized I'd been there a week. Only 7 more days left, and I didn't want to go back. In the hotel business center, I found a brochure for a Big Island volcano tour. Photos of glowing lava and steam vents, raw, wild, alive. I looked at my laptop and thought, why not? Within minutes, I'd booked a flight for the next morning. I woke before sunrise, packed light, and caught the 7 a.m. island hopper to Kona, a tiny propeller plane that rose over Oahu and banked toward the Big Island. From above, the black lava fields looked like the moon had fallen into the ocean. At the rental desk, a young woman handed me keys to a white sedan. Volcano Park's about 2 hours northeast. "Roads are good, but watch for rain," she said. The drive was a journey through worlds. Coastal desert turned rainforest, then volcanic wasteland. The temperature dropped as I climbed to 4,000 feet. Mist thickened into rain. At the park, I paid the entrance fee and followed signs to kill away a crater. The viewpoint stole my breath. A massive caldera stretched before me, steaming and alive. In the center, a molten red glow churned. A young ranger spoke to a small crowd, his voice filled with awe. "The volcano is both creator and destroyer," he said. "It gives life to these islands, but it demands respect." I muttered, "Sounds familiar." The ranger glanced at me. "Personal experience? You could say I'm rebuilding after an eruption." He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. I walked along the rim trail, feeling heat rising through the ground, the sharp smell of sulfur in the air. The earth was alive beneath my feet. And I understood something. Destruction isn't always bad. Sometimes, you have to burn away the old to make room for the new. The drive back was quiet. I returned the car, caught the evening flight to Oahu, and landed at sunset, exhausted but exhilarated. The next day, I rented another car and drove north toward the legendary North Shore. Roads lined with palm trees, surfboards, and shrimp trucks. I stopped at one, ate garlic shrimp standing in a parking lot, grease dripping onto the pavement. Best meal of my life. At Sunset Beach, waves towered 20 feet high. Pro surfers rode them like they were playing with death, and smiling the whole time. That was living. On the way back, I stopped at a roadside fruit stand and bought a papaya from an old Filipino man. He barely spoke English, but his smile said enough. A week ago, I couldn't have appreciated any of this. The beauty would have mocked me then, but now it healed me. Somewhere between falling off a surfboard and standing on a volcano, my anger had burned out. What remained was freedom. The next morning, I visited Pearl Harbor. The USS Arizona Memorial floated above the sunken ship, oil still leaking after 80 years. Tears of the ship, the guide called them. I read the names, etched in marble. Boys, barely 18. Real sacrifice. Not the kind that gets taken for granted. I bow my head. No prayer. Just respect. That visit changed something in me. It reminded me that I'd always had choices. I'd just been too afraid to make them. My last full day came too quickly. I skipped the tours, bought a small notebook from the corner store, and sat beneath the same palm tree where the hermit crab had found me. I began to write, not a diary, just thoughts. I came here to escape. I'm leaving with a plan. Sell the house or rent it. Downsize. Maybe live part-time in Hawaii. Do consulting again on my own terms. Volunteer. Maybe even date again. It felt strange, but not impossible. For the first time in years, I was thinking about what I wanted, not what I owed. Packing day brought mixed feelings. I left the lei on the bed. Couldn't take fresh flowers through customs. Folded clothes that smelled like salt and sunscreen. One last walk on the beach. One last beer at the hotel bar. The bartender smiled. Heading home. Yeah, I said, but it'll be different now. He nodded. It always is. Hawaii changes people. That night, I treated myself to an oceanfront dinner. Real tablecloth, silverware, lobster tail, and lemon garnish too pretty to eat. Last night in paradise, the waiter asked. Yeah, I said, heading back to reality. He smiled. You look different than when you arrived. More relaxed. I feel different. Thank you. Come back soon. I will, I said, and meant it. The sunset was blood red, burning, and beautiful. I didn't take a photo, just watched. Tomorrow, I'd return to Chicago, but not to the same life. 2 weeks. That's all it took to remember who I was before I became just Fern's dad. I was Lim, 65, an engineer, a man who built things, and now, finally, rebuilding himself. At 4 a.m., I dressed for Chicago's winter. Packed Hawaiian shirts that still smelled like coconut and possibility. The airport shuttle moved through Honolulu's quiet streets. The final breath of Plumeria air met me at the terminal doors before recycled air swallowed it. 9 hours later, O'Hare. The gray skyline of Chicago beneath a cold, dark sky. Everyone moved fast, faces tense, shoulders hunched. The contrast was jarring. I took a taxi home, hands trembling as we turned onto my street. My driveway was empty. Relief flooded me. Inside, the house was stripped bare. Her furniture gone. Their things gone. Only my recliner, Maria's gift, remained. On the fridge, a note. Dad, you won. We're gone. Don't expect forgiveness. You chose money over family. I read it aloud, then laughed, bitter, short, and freeing. No, Fern, I whispered. I chose myself. I tore the note in half and dropped it into the trash. Room by room, I walked the house. Empty bedrooms. Quiet walls. Opened all the windows, letting cold December air sweep through, clearing 15 years of resentment. I turned on my phone for the first time in 2 weeks. 14 voicemails, 8 texts, all from Fern and Vernon. I deleted them all, blocked their numbers, and set the phone down. Silence. Sweet silence. Then I called Mark. Lem, you're back, he said. They're gone, I replied. A pause. How do you feel? Lighter. Like I can breathe again. What's next? I don't know, I said, looking out the window at the city lights. Maybe I'll sell this place. Maybe I'll go back to Hawaii. For once, I have options. We talked a few minutes longer, old friends now, not just lawyer and client. When I hung up, I made coffee. Stood by the kitchen window, watching cars pass, lights flicker. The coffee tasted like home. I walked through every room again, slowly this time. No clutter, no noise, just peace. I pulled out my phone, looked at photos, my surfing wipeout, grinning like a fool, the Diamond Head Summit selfie, the fiery sunset from my last dinner. 2 weeks. That's all it took to reclaim myself. They thought I'd crumble, that I was too old, too soft. They were wrong. I opened Maria's drawer, found her photo from our 40th anniversary. Smiling, radiant, before the illness took her. I did it, Maria, I said softly. I chose myself. For the first time, it felt like she was smiling back. 65 years old. A house in my name. A tan from Hawaii. A new beginning. Fern wanted me gone, and she got her wish. But not the way she expected. I won. Not out of cruelty, but because I finally chose me. Chicago stretched outside my window, gray, cold, and full of possibility. Tomorrow, I'd start planning. Maybe call a realtor. Maybe book another trip. But tonight, I just stood there and breathed. The house was empty. My life was full. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.